Hi there, welcome back to this week's Get Me Right, your favorite deep dive show on stories contemporary and consequential for India. This week I bring to you up to speed on what's happening in Bangladesh, our neighbor that's become a radical hellhole of Islamist thugs. The trigger might be the mob lynching of a Hindu, Deepu Das, but the portents do not look good. Not for Bangladesh, nor for India. Let's go deeper. This video shows how Deepu Das was martyred to a lost cause. He was in police custody when a bloodthirsty mob of radicals snatched him and killed him on charges of blasphemy. What was the blasphemous act? Deepu, a Dalit, while facing the mob, said, "All religions are equal." That was blasphemy for the jihadis. The impotent, illegitimate and ineffective Muhammad Yunus government has sought to convey some action. 12 of the jihadis have been arrested, and an assistant to the chief advisor visited the Dalit family and assured all government help. In many ways, the Yunus regime has shepherded Bangladesh's slide into the radical Islamist hellhole that it has become over the last 18 months since the ouster of the Sheikh Hasina government. The jihadis are out on the streets, the mob rules, policing is ineffective, army remains in perpetual standby mode, judicial systems have been co-opted, political witch hunt is the rule, democracy is increasingly becoming an exception, at least till elections happen. There's that famous Panchatantra fable. A king had a favorite monkey, so trusted that he would rather have the monkey around than the sage advisors. One afternoon, the king wanted to have a nap. He gave his sword to the monkey to keep a watch. In came a fly, a housefly, and hovered around the king's face and plonked on his nose. The monkey, realizing that to be an affront, used the sword to get rid of the fly, chopping off the king's nose in the bargain. In the context of Bangladesh events, we know who the monkey is. The king, the powers who forced this regime change through a curated coup behind the facade of a student protest. We know those were not the protests they were projected to be. Just a recap.
They just look like any other young person. You will not recognize it. But when you see them in action, when you hear them speak, you'll be shaking. They shook the whole country by their speeches, by their dedication, their commitment. They said, you can kill us anytime you want, but we are not giving up. And he is known as to be the brain behind the whole revolution.
But for now, it's not the king being visited the wages of misdeeds, but the people of Bangladesh paying the price. Deepu Das was killed in the rioting that engulfed Bangladesh post the death of activist Osman Hadi, head of Inqilab Mancho. Hadi was not directly connected with the July uprising of 2024. He was more a participant in protests in the Dhaka district of Rampura and not a leader in the movement. He set up his own platform, the Mancho, with more pronounced positions on the Awami League, on India, and the future of Bangladesh. Among others, he sought complete ban on Hasina's party and released the map which showed parts of India's northeast as part of a greater Bangladesh. He increasingly positioned himself as more radical than even the National Citizen Party formed by the student leadership of the July 2024 coup. In this speech, for example, he is seen railing against the Bangladesh army in profanities. He was behind some of the mob lynchings of Awami leaders and participated in the vandalism of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's memorial at Dhanamondi. Hardly a democratic RDL. Yet, we had embassies of the United States and Germany, among others, expressing condolences on Hadi's death. You get the drift there of who's the king. It is not coincidental that a week after Hadi's death in a targeted killing, the Yunus regime has taken the formal decision to ban Awami League from participating in the upcoming general elections early next year. It is not coincidental that Hadi's family has alleged that he was killed by some vested interests wanting to postpone the elections. Who benefits if elections get delayed? Obviously, the present regime or the Jamaat. It is not coincidental that an anti-India spin was sought to be given to the killing. Again, who benefits with that diversion? The present regime. It is to that whipped up anti-India sentiment that the life of Deepu Das was lost. Look at the chronology. Since coming to power, Yunus regime lifted the ban on the Jamaat-e-Islami, the same political group that fought alongside Pakistan Army and against the independence movement in the liberation war of Bangladesh in 1971. Since coming to power, the Yunus regime has released over 200 hardcore radical jihadis, including the likes of Jashimuddin Rahmani, who inspired Hadi to take strong Islamist positions. And these are not just anti-India forces. Groups like Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, or homegrown Hizb ut-Tahrir and Ansarul Bangla team, the ABT, have become active and are capturing public discourse right under the nose of Yunus. Add to it the activation of Dhaka cell in Appara, the ISI headquarters in Rawalpindi. The fact that at least 5 top generals of Pakistan Army, including the ISI chief, have visited Bangladesh this year proves that Yunus has worked to a plan. That of letting slow poison of radicalization lace the public life. Let anti-India forces spread their tentacles even as his administration creates a vacuum by first clamping down on the Awami League and then subtly throttling even the BNP. Hear these voices.
They didn't only want to burn the building, they wanted to murder the staff of the Islam. So we have entered, এটা ফখরুল ভাই খুব সুন্দরভাবে বললেন, যে we have not only to just react, stand together, but we have to respond. We have entered into an era of murder. মত প্রকাশ তো অনেক দূর হয়ে গেছে, এখন বেঁচে থাকার অধিকারের ব্যাপারে শেষ। আপনারা এখানে, আপনাদের সঙ্গে আমরা আছি, আমাদের সঙ্গে আপনারা থাকবেন। ধন্যবাদ।
This is Mahfouz Arnab, editor of Daily Star, a newspaper that fully backed the July uprising against Sheikh Hasina and supported Yunus' government. He now fears for his life and says murder rules Dhaka. Quote, they did not only want to burn the building, they wanted to murder the staff of Daily Star. We have entered an era of murder. Freedom of expression is a distant dream in Bangladesh. Now the fight to stay alive is there. Daily Star and Prothom Alo were the 2 news platforms targeted by pro-Hadi Islamist thugs. The entire staff inside the buildings had to be rescued from getting burnt alive in the arson. Nazneen Munni is a well-known face of News TV in Bangladesh. She was a Yunus enthusiast and even participated in some of the anti-Hasina protests last year. On Wednesday, in a Facebook status update, she wrote, using the name of the Metropolitan Committee of the Anti-Discrimination Movement, 7 to 8 people came to my office and threatened me, saying that if I did not quit my job, they will set my office on fire like Prothom Alo and the Daily Star. Tell me, from whom should I ask for security? Unquote. It is likely that she is being targeted for being a woman who is not falling in line with the jihadi zeitgeist of the Times in Dhaka. Majority of student leadership of July uprising, part of the National Citizen Party, now lives in security under the watch of gun-toting guards. They thought revolution would give them a halo, a veneer. It has condemned them instead to the dark shadow of Islamic Jihad. Not that there is no pushback. The children of the 1971 Liberation War have still some elbow room left, as this protest at Chayanot, the cradle of Rabindra Sangeet in Bangladesh, showed. Sheikh Hasina is not giving up, marshalling her presence online and Awami resources on the ground to remain relevant with a fight back. The world is taking note as well. Concerned US congressmen have written to Yunus. New York Times took note of Deepu Das killing, even if after 5 days. The BBC followed after 7 days. In the ultimate analysis, this is about Bangladesh. The nation is going through an existential crisis. From the 1952 language movement to the 1971 Liberation War, until recently, the Bangladesh project was one based on language and culture, vis-à-vis Pakistan, which was based on religion. If Pakistan came up as the first Islamic country formed on the Kalma, remember, not even Saudi Arabia, Bangladesh was its antithesis, rooted in music, poetry, and language. If Pakistan was Islam, Bangladesh was perhaps Nazarul Islam. Under Yunus, that founding philosophy stands uprooted. That vision is now under siege as Islamist extremism moves from the fringes towards the center of national life. Such is the pressure that upon his arrival, Tariq Rahman, the son of Khaleda Zia and the BNP leader, announced that if his party comes to power, Bangladesh would be run as per the life of Prophet Muhammad. Did he announce a Sharia rule? Did he announce a caliphate? We don't know. What obtains of the minorities if Bangladesh becomes Riyasat-e Madina? Just another example of how big the transition is. Even as the embers of Deepu Das lynching were burning, a Hindu rickshaw puller named Gopal Biswas was targeted in Dhaka on charges of being an Indian spy simply for the crime of wearing a spiritual wristband, the Kalawa, and chanting Jai Ma Durga. Wednesday saw Amrut Mondal getting killed by a mob in Rajbari district. This time the charge was extortion and not blasphemy. Who is behind all this? Such well-orchestrated series of incidents targeting the very roots of Bangladesh's identity cannot be happenstance. Deepu Das lynching is a continuity with targeting of Chayanot. Arson of Daily Star and Prathomalo is a continuity with vandalism of Dhanamondi. There's a toolkit, a playbook. Destabilize and bring down all symbols of Bangladesh that differentiated it from Pakistan. The Deepu Das lynching was copybook Tehreek-e-Labak pattern in Pakistan, where blasphemy accusations are weaponized routinely against minorities. Bangladesh is being nudged in that direction under the watchful gaze of Muhammad Yunus. The attack on Deepu Das or incarceration of Chinmay Prabhu of ISKCON is an assault on Bengali culture and identity. Islamists hid the syncretism that took Bangladesh out of Pakistan in 1971. They are working on a complete uprooting of the symbols that represent that syncretism. I remember interacting with some Hindu community members during the 2022 visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Dhaka. Those in politics spoke of discrimination and the commoners of outright fear and intimidation. A brother-sister duo I met at the Dhakeshwari temple left a lasting impression of what the state of affairs is like. The boy started crying while narrating how fearful they are of protecting their religious identity the moment I queried on the subject. And remember, this was still Hasina's Bangladesh. Since the Bangladesh uprising, the boy, let's name him Akash, has petitioned me twice if I can help evacuate the family to India. I, of course, cannot. But that gives you an idea of how bad the situation is on the ground for the Hindu community. From about 30% in 1941 before partition to about 8% now, it has been a downslide in both percentage and absolute terms for the Hindus in Bangladesh. One could say the situation is not as bad as Pakistan, where the Hindu population stands at around 2%, from 20% pre-partition. But then Pakistan was the reason why Bangladesh came into being, not the inspiration. I had a Bangladeshi citizen in my hostel back in the 1990s as part of a Government of India exchange program studying engineering on Indian taxpayer money. From those interactions and clubbed with the Dhaka visit, I could say that there's a psyche that makes Bangladeshis live in perpetual state of inferiority complex vis-a-vis India. Imagination of a greater Bangladesh by Hadi is an attempt to redeem, in some measure if not fully, the non-Hindu, non-India Bangladesh that the Bangladeshis fantasize. This general direction of radicalism and anti-India sentiment won't change come whichever dispensation in Dhaka, unfortunately. It might just vary in terms of its expression, sometimes muted, as in times of Awami, and at other times pronounced, as we have seen with BNP earlier or Yunus now. That brings me to the question, what are the options available to India? First, the things that have been done well. Despite providing a shelter on humanitarian grounds to Sheikh Hasina, we have kept our lines of communication open with other political forces in Dhaka beyond the Awami League. That includes the BNP. We have used carrot and stick to restrain the Yunus government from tilting completely against India. The carrot of visas and the stick of financial assistance through lines of credit mean the Yunus regime remains on the hook. But going beyond, this program has always maintained that Bangladesh needs some tough love. There was a report this week that New Delhi is exporting 50,000 tons of rice to Dhaka. At US $355 per ton, it's $40 cheaper than what Pakistan is supplying to Bangladesh at $395. Why be nicer than Pakistan? For God's sake. The establishment in Delhi seems hopeful of things changing post-elections. The Yunus regime is seen as an aberration which would die down with transition of power early next year. Maybe, maybe not. If you have watched the Bangladesh developments closely over the last few years, and not just post the August 2024 coup, you would have noticed a pattern of a societal trajectory of radicalization that is no different from what is happening in Pakistan, or to be honest, in some pockets of India also. How different are the radicals in Bangladesh from those in India who seek to rebuild the Babri Mosque in Bengal's Murshidabad district? Or those who are ready to carry out a suicide bombing in the heart of Delhi for the Pakistani project of Kashmir? Because remember, the Kashmir project of Pakistan at its roots is nothing but pivoting the region to religion and to separate it from India on that ground. Perhaps a refashioning of South Asia has to happen. If our strategic community can toy with the idea of a Baluchistan independent of Pakistan, why can't we have and imagine a Hindu majority corridor in North Bangladesh and work towards it as a long-term project? Bhaya bin hoye na preeti. Ideal, of course, would be a life of dignity for the Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh. The ideal that guided the birth of Bangladesh. Either way, we have to wait. Thanks for watching.